Bex, don't know if you knew this, but we're actually back from Gamescom now.
Oh.
Yeah, you slept on the flight all the way.
Yeah,
Weird.
That checks out.
There was a lot to do there.
There was.
See, there's a lot to play, which is what we're going to talk about in today's video, because we did get hands-on with a few of the playable demos and experiences at Gamescom. We got some thoughts.
Listen up. Let's talk about all of the games that we played at Gamescom. Go grab yourself a tea and let's have a chat.
And this video was brought to you by Star Wars Outlaws.
First up, I want to talk about Atomfall, Henry, because we had the pleasure of chatting to Ben Fisher from Rebellion about the game, and also checking it out on the Xbox booth, as well as at Rebellion Station. They had that playable at Gamescom, which is sick. So Atomfall looks like Rebellion's take on if a nuclear incident happened in the sleepy British countryside.
Which apparently it did.
Apparently so.
It's apparently a true story.
Apparently. Allegedly. But yeah, it looks really different, especially compared to what Rebellion Studios are known for with Sniper Elite games.
Which they did announce a new Sniper Elite as well.
Yeah.
Which is how they've got all this time for all these games is beyond me, but
busy.
You're right, it's so different to what they typically do, which is why it's exciting.
Yeah.
And already from what, I don't know how you feel, but what I've seen, I feel very comforted that they've nailed what they've set out to do. It looks incredible, and it's very British.
Yes. One thing from playing Atomfall, and also that Ben kept hitting home when we spoke to him, was this idea of a mystery to solve, like within the game. And you see that from instead of having a journal with your step 1, chapter 1 on where to go and do this thing, objective to get your next NPC dialogue, blah blah blah. You have leads, they call it in the game instead. So you're finding
nothing's like signposted to the degree of hand holding. It is an explorative mystery, which is very cool.
Yeah, definitely something that we both enjoy because we love puzzle games as well. I was thinking for you, but
cerebral
gamers.
You don't have to follow those leads. I mean, people have been saying from what they've played as well that it's totally optional the way you tackle stuff. It's not just the fact that you have to figure things out for yourself, but quite literally, as you're playing it, you can take different paths to reach that same goal as well. So if you go in aggressively, or if you go in even deciding to talk to people more, and that's one thing that's quite cool, is some people might see this as a bit harsh or difficult to get to grips with at first, but in conversation, you even have the choice to basically piss someone off to the point where they become locked off.
Yeah.
And they won't talk to you for a while because they're still getting over how hurt they are by what you said to them, the tone you used when you said it, which is really cool because that's an organic way of discovering information from people. Like, if I annoy someone, why would they want to help me? Why would they want to talk to me for ages until we can resolve things maybe at a later time?
Yeah.
Very cool.
You're right. It is super cool in terms of a different take on how choosing dialogue changes the storyline, but that part is at least signposted so you can tell what tone you're conveying, because there's nothing worse when you think you're choosing a dialogue option and then your character spouts out something completely different. I'm looking at you, Mass Effect.
Man? What are you doing? It is basically post-nuclear disaster, so not everything's great. There are some things you're gonna have to scrape together to get by, but by doing that, you're going to equip yourself with the tools that you need. But also the thing that's distinctly different from other games they've done is, yes, there are ranged weapons, and Sniper Elite, amazing game for that style of gameplay. But there's a lot more focus on the up close and personal melee combat, and they've definitely executed it very well because it feels crunchy when you're playing it. Like, you pick up something, it connects with someone, you feel that. It was very visceral.
Very visceral.
Yeah, it's really good. And like, the sound team at Rebellion have been doing amazing work for a long time. But the sound of a cricket bat bouncing off someone's head, immaculate.
Nothing like it.
Yeah.
Love what we played so far. Can't wait to see more. It's definitely, like you say, its own game in itself, but it has echoes of those familiar titles that we know and love, but distinctly itself for Atomfall. And best part, we're going to be in the game.
Don't kill me. Well, be nice.
So Henry, Charley, Sam, Benny, and I have been scanned into the game. at the Rebellion Studios, which was so much fun.
Very weird experience, but
yeah. Well, if you want to find out how weird it was, be sure to comment down below, because maybe we have some behind the scenes footage. But we're not just saying we like the game because we are in it, because we haven't found ourselves yet. But that is just another cherry on top of a very unique and very exciting game coming out soon. Atomfall.
Blinder. The very next game that I checked out was bonkers for very good reasons. And if you like games like Goat Sim, or if you like games like Deer Sim, or any of those kind of wacky sandbox games, Squirrel with a Gun. Put it on your wants list. It is so good. So good.
This might be Game of the Year.
It might.
Yeah, I think it's taken what is good about Goat Sim, Deer Sim, Untitled Goose Game.
Yeah.
All of those fun little games, and just next level. We're interacting with multiple people. We're messing up multiple people with various weapons. A squirrel should not be able to handle a shotgun, and yet here we are in the year 2024 finding out what that would look like in video game form.
Yeah, it's not just like a very simple sandbox game. There are, as you'd expect with a game like Goat Sim, for example, there are those puzzle elements. You need to solve things to explore it, to progress through the levels. But the sandbox potential is a big draw to this game, and there are various combos you can do. You could literally like get around on like little vehicles and do tricks in like skate parks and stuff. It's great fun. Plus, seeing a squirrel model like that big holding a Barrett 50 cal that is this big, and like basically using it almost like a pogo stick, is just so fun.
Next level.
So fun to play.
There's, like you say, more to it than just
a squirrel with a gun.
Yeah.
There's more than
running
that.
about. There's more to it. And you can choose how you interact with people. So you can go up and ask for like pets and treats and stuff. Or you can just cause havoc and damage and, probably life-altering injuries as a squirrel. Yeah. Which is also fun.
They factored in... This kept making me laugh so much when I was playing it. They kind of factored in the physics of it as well. Like, if you really did give a squirrel, like an Uzi, and it fired it, that squirrel would go flying. And that does actually happen in the game. So the recoil does take into account the gun that you're using and the weight of it and how powerful the gun is. So a little squirrel holding a 50 cal, it does really shoot you back, which... very fun. Also a nice way to get around the map though, if you're looking for a little speed.
Yeah, it's handy.
Yeah, it's good.
Can't wait to play more. There's cosmetics, there's collectibles for the squirrel. I will become a squirrel.
With a gun.
Not long to wait for this next one. Can't wait. It is, of course, the biggie. Diablo IV Vessel of Hatred expansion. Diablo Vessel of Hatred stand at the Xbox booth was incredible. Let's just take a moment for that. The playable area for that. They had this very thematic to Vessel of Hatred jungle architecture and real plants, real life plants.
Yeah, it did look sick, and it was kind of the perfect setting to get really immersed in the expansion, which was playable there. So we got to check out Vessel of Hatred and the new class, which is I'm very excited about, because although I'm having a lot of fun playing as a rogue or a barbarian or, druids, having a new class after 5 seasons feels like the right time to introduce one. And it's a lot of fun because this class feels like multiple in one. So it's called the Spiritborn, and you can basically align yourself with different jungle spirits, which all have their own kind of play style. So it doesn't just feel like they're adding one class, it feels like they're adding multiple. Purely because of how diverse the Spiritborn is. So you can choose a gorilla, basically spirit, or you can choose the centipede spirit, or you could choose the eagle or the jaguar. Is it the last one?
Yes.
I think so. Yeah, it was jaguar. So from those 4 spirits, they each have different play styles, different attacks, different visuals that happen when you're triggering them, and their different skills. So gorillas, as you'd expect, a bit more brute force, tanky, to smash stuff together. Eagle's a bit more nimble, so you're looking more like range stuff as well as swooping attacks. Pretty sick. Centipede, I didn't actually try, but I've heard it's kind of gross. what it
looks
does.
so sick.
Yeah.
That's I'm such a poison player already in Diablo. I love poison damage. And you basically just like spit out poison damage and you can like call up the centipede like Charleyy. It's great.
Nice. Okay, I'll have to try that.
This not guy.
I'll have to try that one when it launches.
Yeah.
That does sound fun. But the other thing that is cool is just the new area as well. So very thematic that the booth itself was this jungle theme, because the new area is also dense jungle. It's a new continent that's like a new part of the map that you get to explore, and there'll be new dungeons, like more than 10 of them, I think, to check out, which likely means that we'll also probably get new aspects to add to our codex that you can earn from those dungeons. There'll be like new enemy types as well, themed around the fact that there is this like kind of rotten core to the jungle, and they've like warped these different enemy types. And when I was speaking to Rod at Rex and Aislinn on the booth, they were telling me that this is an enemy type that's appeared before. I think it was Diablo 2, but back then there was only one of those enemies, and now they've actually fleshed out that monster family with more archetypes, more units. So it's not just like that one enemy type, but there's like multiple, and they all have different abilities, kind of like how you see with like the goat men, for example. There's the big ones, the small ones, there's the ranged ones, there's all different ones, you know. So you'll have a lot to contend with when you're playing it, which is great. But something else we learned that was really cool, but it wasn't actually playable at Gamescom, but something I'm very excited about with Season 6 and Vessel of Hatred is the new endgame activities, and the Dark Citadel being one of them that you can play through. And it is this, it's like multiplayer experience that requires you to work in teams. So it's almost like raid-esque with the puzzle element to it, which is very cool. But the most exciting thing about it that everyone's been asking for is that you can finally earn a scroll of retempering. So you can fix all your bricked gear, and now it's usable again. You can retemper it to your heart's content. You just have to run those activities to get more of them and finally roll perfect gear no matter what. So that's going to be such a game changer for me, because the amount of times I've tempered something and it then garbage, not a problem anymore.
Not anymore.
Cheers, guys.
We also had the chance to play some Space Marine 2, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. And you and Charleyy spoke to the devs as well, which is sick.
Yeah, we did.
The level we played was fairly linear. It looked gorgeous as well, in a kind of gross, brutal way, I guess, when you're ripping and dismembering hordes and hordes of Tyranids. But still, it was cool. Yeah, the AI for all of the Tyranids running at you and like kind of scattering across like the way like spiders in your dreams do was really gross and just really added to the fear and grossness of it, but in the best way.
Very putrid enemies. But you're right, the AI, the way they've tuned it means that it's actually unpredictable. It's not like, oh, okay, I've got this lane covered, so I'm going to expect them to go from this direction now. It's much more aggressive and much more innovative than that. So it will think, okay, you will start to, this lane's covered, so they're going to try and find another angle on you, but it's not going to be what you expect all of the time. So while we didn't get to play it in co-op, which I think will probably end up being like the optimal way to play it, we played it in single player, and even then your AI teammates do a pretty good job of covering other angles, etc. But I think in co-op it's going to be hilarious to play this game, because if you've ever played Swarm-based games before, you just know how funny it is when you do get overwhelmed, and then you're on comms just blaming each other for probably what was your fault in the first place. But either way, it's going to be very cool. The executions in it, so sick. And there's a lot of varieties of them too. I was worried that there would only be like a couple different animations, but
once you've done it like 4 times, you've seen them all.
I saw like different ones constantly, so it always felt fresh, always felt interesting, and very gory. Very gory, and your companions can do it too, and it's like in real time. So if you're playing in co-op, I can imagine that someone starts doing a finisher, and then you could go and kill the enemy for them and ruin their finisher.
That would be jokes. You would do that.
Funny. Yeah, I might do that. I'm gonna try that out. It looks fun.
Nice. The last one we're gonna speak about is Avowed.
A big one.
I'm so excited for this coming next year. It's shaping up to be a game that I will probably lose several hundred hours into it, and I am okay with that, and I personally can't wait. I actually saw the theater experience that they had at Gamescom before playing the mission.
So you had a bit of intel on what to expect. Yeah, because I didn't. Mine ended sourly. I'll explain why, but you go on.
Okay. So the level that we played through was really sick. You come across this character in a underground kind of delve cave while you're trying to find, the classic, trying to find the missing rescue mission or field mission.
Beautiful, by the way, how the game looks.
Oh, stunning.
Oh my god, like the art team has absolutely killed it with the environments there, because the lighting mixed with like the color palettes they use. It's not like a typical dank, dreary dungeon or anything like that. It is vibrant, it's colorful, it's just lovely to look at. And so I'm sure once we get to play the rest of the game and see all the different areas that they work with, they're all going to be equally stunning. But yeah, this was a great snapshot of like the fidelity of the game.
You're so right.
Way up there. Way up.
On that, before I go back into the story, like even looking at the visuals for combat and the magic bursts that you can see in those animations are so just a joy to the eyes. And we didn't really get a good look at it, but something that I'm really excited for is character creation. So we saw what our characters had been made up for us, like on the play booth. And there were some wild looking choices we can make. So I'm excited to dive into that. Now, to start with, I played through as a barbarian. And there's, with the different classes, obviously you've got quite a similar to, if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, you've got a similar setup for Pillars of Eternity, etc. So I played as a barbarian. And then what's cool about Avowed though, is that you have a background to your character as well, which you can choose. And so the one I played through was War Hero, and with that unlocks different dialogue options for you, similar to what we were kind of talking about in Atomfall. These dialogue options will have different branching routes that we can explore within that story, but also probably like let us get information that we wouldn't have otherwise come across, or different outcomes that we wouldn't have otherwise come across, which is really sick.
And I feel like they're not forcing it into areas that wouldn't make sense, like an organic conversation, because mine didn't always pop up at the same times that yours did, because I had a different background, which was more like scholarly, and so it's not like every time that there's like here's the background choice option, it's not always going to be there for you, because it's only going to be there where relevant. So it actually feels like your background matters within the context of whatever quest you're currently doing, which I think makes more sense, because it means that it's a more natural way of inserting your character into this world, which is great. But it does, like you say, open up different opportunities depending on how you built your character in Character Creator.
It feels like it instantly drew me in as well, and having that background, having that, like you say, is a great way of putting it, how your character fits into this world, and immediately having like some connection with it. Because sometimes I can totally understand and myself like get overwhelmed when you come across a brand new RPG and there's a lot to start off with. Avowed has a lot going on in the menus. We only like slightly dabbled into even skill trees or abilities that your character can gain, but it all kind of felt like it was fed at the appropriate speed. It didn't feel like it was too rushed, but also it felt like there was so much like choice just from the get-go, and enough that, like you say, just made sense for that without overwhelming a player or the character.
It very much feels like the sort of game newcomers can get into, because when you play these kind of RPGs that are fantasy, there's often a lot of fantasy babble that you might not be familiar with, especially with a franchise like Pillars of Eternity, which Avowed does sit within that universe. There are existing phrases that people use, or like terminology that you'll be like, what the hell does that mean? Well, they've actually built in this very useful feature, which is like a sort of lore checker history thing, where if there's something that you're not quite sure about, you can actually check and it will explain it. Like there was this guy that was like, you take me to the wheel or something like that. And I was like, the what? an actual
What are you
wheel.
talking about, mate?
What are you on about? Turns out that means it's like their in-game phrasing for reincarnation. So now I know what that means, and I won't do it to myself either.
Yeah, it's sick. The text comes up highlighted. Just look at the thing. I love that. I love getting deeper into it. I wish I had that in real life, actually.
Yeah.
Especially with what phrases you come out with.
But in terms of the gameplay, like you said, it's very fun being able to control magic and also still have like weaponry in your hands too. So there's a lot of fluidity to the combat. Because this RPG system that they're basing it on is quite deep, it allows for the player to figure out different combos that they like the look of, the feel of, the visuals even of. If you're like, you know what, I'm kind of role playing this quite hardcore, I want my spells to match the kind of character that I'm using, or my weaponry, that option's there for you. So you could have like an offhand and your main hand, and also still cast spells at the same time, depending on the character you've built, which is great. And it all feels very like snappy doing the spells. That it feels almost a bit like firing a gun, but not quite, like cooler than that. It's just very like sick. I love it. The sound effects on it are great as well. Really like adds to the explosiveness of some of the combat. But it's also like the variety in outcomes, because your ending is probably more preferable to the ending that I got. Like I said, it ended as slightly sourly, but that's probably my fault for not doing my research and watching its presentation first.
You do, Henry.
Basically, at the end of this quest that we played, you get a few choices depending on how you've played it out, and for most people, it ends in a cool little boss battle. But that only happens if you decide not to sacrifice your soul, because he asks you like, oh cool, we just need to like get a soul to sacrifice now. I wonder if we could do that. I thought like maybe I could be the soul.
See,
and I'm sure nothing bad would happen, right?
That's a very interesting choice, because I chose what might be the more common choice of, no, nice try, mate.
Thanks,
let's have a fun shot.
Yeah. Well, I didn't do that, and I just thought, oh, well, surely nothing bad will happen. Wrong. Literally go up there, sacrifice my soul. I get a little side quest pop up saying, you know, like contemplate the end of your existence or something like that, and then I die. The end. So there are numerous outcomes in this game that there's like a weird sense of humor to it as well. Like, of course that was gonna happen, you idiot. Why would you sacrifice your soul? So now I know that when I play the real game, I'm gonna have to take my soul slightly more seriously, protect it a bit better. But it's nice to know that you do have the choice to do that, because for some people, there might be one person out there that's like, yes, that was the ending I deserved.
This is my true ending.
I'm happy now. So, you know, it's cool to get a game that lets you have a little play around with those kind of consequences.
Yeah, definitely. Got a wee bit to wait until February. That'll fly by. I'm really looking forward to playing more Avowed.
Definitely. So that was everything that we got a chance to play at Gamescom. Did you have a favorite out of those?
Oh, it's so hard to choose.
I think Diablo for me, just because that's very close, it's very imminent, and I've been loving the game so far right now. So yeah,
I think Atomfall, Avowed.
It's tough, very tough. But these games will be coming out pretty soon, and if you want to learn more about them, let us know in the comments, and we will try and get some early access, get some like thoughts on them together, make a little video on them for you guys as soon as we can.
Yes.
Yeah, wicked. This video was brought to you by Star Wars Outlaws, the first open-world Star Wars game ever. Playing as rookie scoundrel Kay Vess, you play the criminal underworld syndicates against each other for a shot at one of the biggest heists the Outer Rim has ever seen. Joined by her companions Nyx and ND5 across 5 different explorable planets and space itself, this is the ultimate galactic criminal fantasy. Just don't get cocky, kid.
This is the life of an outlaw. A life where you fight, explore, and infiltrate parts of the galaxy you never thought possible. There are opportunities at every turn, and if you're willing to take the risk and defy the odds, the galaxy is yours for the taking.
Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.